We are getting closer and closer to the start of Philadelphia Eagles training camp and the official return of Eagles football, and as we continue to approach that, the expectations for this team only continue to get higher and higher, as obviously we know what the ultimate expectation for this team is this upcoming season, and that's definitely the most important thing, but there have also recently been some very high expectations placed on several individual players, as some think that these 7 Eagles can have their best year of their careers and make huge jumps in their game this season. But who are these guys that have been projected to do this? Well, we're going to talk all about that in this video today, so let's not waste any time and get straight into it. So obviously earlier in the offseason, there was a report that came out via Jeremy Fowler of ESPN saying that the Eagles expect Jalen Hurts to take a huge jump forward in his game this season. And this is a report that I've probably already mentioned way too many times on this channel, but still regardless, this definitely got a ton of Eagles fans excited for the potential improvements that Hurts could make this year, especially after signing a historically huge contract extension this offseason. Now, despite all the excitement surrounding Hurts' potential improvement, he's certainly not the only Philadelphia Eagles player that could make a huge jump this season, as recently several articles have come out placing huge expectations on 7 different Eagles players. But who are these guys and can they actually make that quote-unquote huge jump this season? Well, let's start off with the first article written by Dave Zangaro of NBC Sports Philadelphia that is titled 5 Eagles Heading into 2023 Poised for Pro Bowl Jump. And this list details guys who haven't made the Pro Bowl just yet, but could be selected to their first one this season. And the first guy that is on this list is tight end Dallas Goedert, and I think that of all the guys on this list, he arguably belongs here the most, as obviously going back to last season, he was playing at a Pro Bowl level and probably would have made it had he not got injured and missed 5 games. And I mean, in the 12 games that he did play, he had 55 catches for 702 yards and 3 touchdowns, and if he had played all 17 games, he was on pace to have 78 catches for 995 yards, and that should have probably easily earned him a Pro Bowl selection. So I think that when you look forward to this season, it's very fair to expect Goddard to finally break through and get the respect that he deserves by earning his first Pro Bowl selection, assuming that he stays healthy. I mean, this guy is one of the best tight ends in all of football, and he showed that throughout the games that he was able to play last year in the regular season, and then especially in the playoffs and even the Super Bowl. So I think that as long as he stays healthy this year, he'll probably get his first Pro Bowl nod, and the article has the same sort of reasoning as it says, quote, Dallas Goedert was well on his way to a Pro Bowl nod during the 2022 season, but he suffered a shoulder injury in November that kept him out for 5 games. If he hadn't gotten injured, it seems very likely Goddard would have been given that honor last season. And then Zangaro goes on and later writes, quote, it's hard to believe that Goddard is already 28 and going into his 6th NFL season. It's almost as hard to believe that he hasn't made a Pro Bowl yet. Ever since entering the NFL in 2018, Goddard has been very confident. Maybe this is the year he stays healthy and earns some of the accolades that have eluded him. I mean, it really does seem like Goddard is poised to have his best season since entering the NFL this upcoming year, and he very well could be rewarded with a Pro Bowl nod. Obviously, as could the rest of the guys on this list. And the next one that the article mentions is left tackle Jordan Mailata. And Mailata is very interesting because of the fact that, as we know, he didn't start playing football until very recently, but he's still been able to have a tremendous amount of success in this league in his 2 seasons that he has started so far. But again, as we know, despite Mailata playing at a pretty high level, he has not been rewarded with a Pro Bowl selection just yet. Although, it seems like he has a very good chance to change that in 2023 for reasons Zangaro detailed in the article, as he said, quote, even though he's an established starting left tackle with a big contract extension already out of the way, Jordan Mailata is still just 26, and even though he's played at a high level in his 2 years as a full-time starter, there's still more room for growth, especially because of how relatively new he is to football. In 2022, Mailata played and started 16 of 17 games in the regular season and all 3 games in the playoffs, but he wasn't completely healthy during last season, and a shoulder injury earlier in the season seemed to hamper him. Despite that, Mailata was still pretty good. Pro Football Focus graded him as the 9th best offensive tackle in the NFL. If you're wondering, Lane Johnson was 5th on that list, and he's widely considered the best right tackle in the NFL. So these are all great points that Zangaro made here. I feel like Mailata's injury probably flew under the radar last year, but it seemingly did affect him a little bit, so assuming that he's able to stay healthy this year, maybe he'll be able to play at an even higher level than he already was playing at. Now, it also was mentioned here that, like I said, Mailata is still pretty new to football, and there's probably a lot more room for him to get better and improve, and if he's able to do that while, again, staying healthy, there may be a really good chance that he earns his first Pro Bowl selection this year. Now, moving on to the next guy that's on the list, we have Devonte Smith, and I've talked a bunch about Smith in recent videos because he's been making headlines as of late, most recently with former NFL star Richard Sherman saying that Devonte Smith made him realize it was just about time for him to retire. Take a listen.
And we had you on a Thursday night, and Devonte must have ran this comeback. And I had him under control, you know what I mean? I was like, bang, quick jam, like easy, got him under control. He must have stopped, and I tried to stop. and my whole groin said, snap, 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 snap. I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then you're trying to guard him. You're like, chase him around. Like, please don't throw him the ball, please. And our coach is looking at me on the sideline like, hey, you want to come out? You want to come out? I'm like, yeah, but y'all, they're in a hurry up. So I'm like bailing out. I was like, at that moment, I was like, yeah, this is probably my last year.
I mean, this was definitely a really interesting story, but it just goes to show how great Devonta Smith already was in his rookie year if he specifically was the one guy that made Sherm realize he was probably on his way out soon. And Devonta Smith only built on his great rookie season in year 2, breaking an Eagles record for the most catches by a wide receiver in a single season and putting up some great overall numbers as the Eagles wide receiver number 2 with 95 catches for 1,196 yards and 7 touchdowns. Now, these numbers definitely could have earned him a Pro Bowl selection last year, and the article makes that case by showing his numbers against the guys who did end up making the Pro Bowl, and Devonta's look very similar to them. Then Zangaro caps off the section by saying, quote, "You could argue that Smith was already a Pro Bowl snub last season. No reason to think he won't have a good shot at making it in 2023. Now, I definitely agree with this. I mean, everything we've heard so far about Devonta Smith this offseason has been really positive, and it seems like he's poised to be even better in the 2023 season than he was in his first 2 years, and that could definitely result in his first Pro Bowl nod. Now, these 3 guys I think are pretty much locks to be on this specific list, but the next 2 guys were kind of somewhat of a surprise. And don't worry, we're going to get into all of that, but before we do, I just ask you one favor. If you are enjoying this video and want to see others like it coming in the future, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Around 80% of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed. If you're one of those people, you've been consistently watching and enjoying the videos, and you love the Philadelphia Eagles, make sure you fix that right now. Go down, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss when any more videos are uploaded. I think that's a win-win for the both of us. And now with all that being said, let's get back into the video. Now, the next guy that was put on this list is rookie defensive tackle Jalen Carter, which I think is somewhat of a surprise because I don't think it's very often that a rookie enters the season with possible expectations of making the Pro Bowl, but still, obviously it's not impossible and it happens somewhat often, including twice just last season, so it's definitely not out of the question that Jalen Carter could come in and make the cut in his first NFL season. And the article has some pretty decent reasoning for why they decided to put him on this list, mentioning the fact that he's going to be replacing Javon Hargrave, who obviously left for the San Francisco 49ers in free agency. And then he went on to say, quote, "Of course, there are never any guarantees with rookies in the NFL, but Carter was considered by many draft pundits to be one of the best overall players in the 2023 class. If he plays like the guy we saw at Georgia, he could be extremely good early in his NFL career." Now, don't get me wrong, I definitely think Carter can have a great rookie season. I'm just not sure if he can make it to the Pro Bowl right away. And that's mainly because of how deep the Eagles are on the defensive line, and even at the defensive tackle position, where they have 3 guys that are all going to play a high amount of snaps. I mean, we don't even know if Carter's going to start to open the season because the Eagles obviously have Fletcher Cox and Jordan Davis. And this is not to mention the fact that sometimes it can take rookies a little bit to adjust to being in the NFL, and obviously nobody is a finished product when they are drafted into the league. So again, not saying Carter isn't going to be very good this year, and I'm not saying he won't be a Pro Bowl caliber player at some point in the future, because I ultimately think that he will. I'm just not sure it's going to be this year, and I think that those are kind of unfair expectations to place on him, as you know, he's just a rookie. And now moving into the final guy on this list, I think we have someone who's kind of somewhat of a surprise, but when you think about it, I actually do think he has a very legit shot to be a first-time Pro Bowler this year, and that is newly acquired running back DeAndre Swift. Now, Swift is obviously one of the most intriguing Eagles heading into this year because of his immense potential and talent, not to mention all the hype surrounding him this offseason. I mean, I've done a bunch of videos, probably too many honestly, talking about DeAndre Swift this offseason, so if you want to go check those out after this video, you can. But yeah, it seems like Eagles fans are really excited to see what we have in DeAndre Swift, and it sounds like the Eagles are planning a very big role for him. Now, the reason I think it's somewhat of a surprise to see him on this list is because of the fact that it looks like the Eagles are going to implement a running back by committee system, where guys like Rashad Penny and Kenneth Gainwell will get a lot of run, obviously in addition to Swift. However, Zangaro made a good point in the article, saying that one of these guys eventually is going to get the ball more than the others, and the most likely candidate for that is Swift. And that's because of the immense talent that he has. I mean, when he's been on the field, he's been really, really good, and who knows, if he didn't have to deal with all the injuries that he's had to deal with throughout the course of his career so far, maybe he could have already made his first Pro Bowl. So now this year, he's arguably going to have his best chance to do that because he's going to be a part of this high-powered Eagles offense with the best offensive line in the league that was able to help Miles Sanders get his first first Pro Bowl selection last year, and he's obviously also going to get to play with a great dual threat quarterback in Jalen Hurts, and he's going to get to play for a coaching staff that reportedly seems like it wants to get the most out of Swift by using him heavily in the passing game. And really, as we've talked about before on this channel, Swift's receiving ability out of the backfield is what makes him so exciting and unique compared to the other Eagles running backs, and Zangaro seems to agree with that, as he wrote, quote, "The key here for Swift might be his ability as a receiver. He has caught 156 passes in his first 3 NFL seasons, but the Eagles haven't thrown to the backs a ton during Nick Sirianni's time as the head coach. Perhaps some of that is because a lot of those dump-offs to running backs end up being Hurts runs in Philly, but if the Eagles are able to unlock that part of their offense, they're likely to do it with Swift. Maybe he'll have that breakout season in 2023. Now, like I said, according to some recent reports, it really seems like the Eagles are preparing to change their offense a little bit to try to get the most out of Swift in the receiving game, and it sounds like they're going to use him in that way very often. So combine that with the hope of Swift finally being able to stay healthy and the fact that the Eagles offense is built for him to succeed, who knows, maybe Swift does make his first Pro Bowl this year. Now that's the end of that list, but there are still a few other Philadelphia Eagles players that have been mentioned recently that are garnering big expectations for the 2023 season, and one of those guys is Eagles left guard Landon Dickerson, who was recently listed as the Philadelphia Eagles player who is flying the most under the radar but can end up starring in 2023 in a recent article written by Jeff Kerr of CBS Sports, in which he picked one of these players for every NFC team, and when explaining why he picked Dickerson as the option for the Eagles, he said, quote, "Dickerson has only been in the league 2 years, yet he is already one of the best guards in the game. Selected to a Pro Bowl in 2022, Dickerson allowed just 1 sack and 17 pressures at left guard. He allowed just 4 quarterback hits and a 2.9% pressure rate. A huge year 3 could be in store for Dickerson, who is already one of the best offensive linemen on arguably the best offensive line in the game." I mean, you heard it there. Dickerson was already incredible for the Eagles over his first 2 seasons, and he's been a huge part of the Eagles offensive line being the best in the league, and there's an argument to be made that Dickerson is already one of the best guards in all of football, so there's no reason to think that he won't continue to be amazing this upcoming season, and it definitely has the potential to be his best year yet. But now the last guy we got to talk about is A.J. Brown, who recently received some hype as a dark horse MVP candidate for this upcoming season.
Stay off the weed.
And I'm not gonna lie, that kinda sounds ridiculous considering the fact that no receiver has ever won the MVP award in the history of the NFL. But David Harrison of Eagles Today recently wrote an article titled "Eagles wide receiver A.J. Brown, sneaky MVP candidate in year 2. But in the article, it essentially says that Brown has no real shot at the award, saying, quote, "While Hurts will get serious MVP consideration if the team stays in contention this season, Brown is unlikely to, even though he's the next in line candidate in Philadelphia, according to NFL.com. Now, the article that Harrison is referencing here from NFL.com is titled 2023 NFL Season, Predicting Each NFC Team's Non-QB MVP, and this is written by Eric Edholm. And of course, the player who was selected for the Eagles is A.J. Brown, and the passage states, quote, "The Eagles might have half a dozen reasonable options here, but Brown proved just how valuable he was last season after coming over in a trade from Tennessee. The price Philly paid looks well worth it after he put up career bests in nearly every major category a season ago. The depth at receiver remains a bit on the thin side, one of the few positions you can say that about in Philadelphia, and Devonte Smith is at his best when Brown is drawing attention. So for this offense to truly reach its full potential again, they'll need another healthy, high-volume season from Brown." Now, everything that's written in that article is very true, and Brown will definitely need to have another great year for the Eagles offense to be as effective as it can possibly be, and with the standard that he set last year, Brown has some huge expectations to live up to, and obviously, he's very capable of doing that, and I see another phenomenal year coming for A.J. Brown. Maybe not MVP caliber like the article was suggesting there, but I could definitely see another All-Pro selection as long as everything goes well. But what do you guys think? Can A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, DeAndre Swift, or Jalen Carter, or any of the other guys that I mentioned in this video live up to the huge expectations that were recently placed upon them? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you did enjoy this video and want to show some support, first drop a like on it and also subscribe again so you don't miss any other videos coming in the future. And if you want to watch another video talking about some bold claims made about the Eagles ahead of training camp, you can go watch it right here. And now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.